There is a war for black lives. The black American will statistically have to endure things in life that the white American won't have to. So in that regard, the African American person in America, they do have it harder than the average white family. But the focus of these movements that we're seeing all throughout America right now, the focus of them, I really believe that it's in the wrong place. Whatever side you deem yourself a part of, whether you're left or right, conservative, liberal, whether you're black or white, please just listen to the first few minutes of this with an open mind. An entire race of people, the African American race, they're being targeted. They're being manipulated by another group of people who care nothing for them. And I do not believe it's about police brutality. You know, I've heard this analogy numerous times this week saying, quote, all lives matter as a response to Black Lives Matter is like saying the fire department should spray down all the houses in a neighborhood, even though only one house is on fire. Can I say that if the house in this analogy is the African American community in America, then I agree. The house is on fire. And black lives do matter. But the house is not on fire because of police brutality. Please hear me out. Here's a conservative commentator and political activist, Candace Owens, talking about the statistics on police brutality and the black community. So just hear her out, just with the statistics, all right? And then we're going to come back and tell you how there truly is a war on Black America.
So here are some numbers for you people that are still believing that police brutality is a real, racially motivated police brutality is a real thing. First and foremost, okay, you have a 25% higher chance as a violent white criminal of dying at the hands of a police officer than you do as a black criminal. Last year, a total of 9 unarmed black men were killed by police officers and 19 white men were killed by police officers. For those of you that aren't good at mathematics, right, you might be thinking, oh, but Candace, white people represent 60% of the population and black people represent just 13% of the population. It doesn't matter what percentage of the population you represent. It matters what percentage of the violent criminal community you represent. And unfortunately, black community commits a disproportionate amount of crimes compared to the white community. Let me tell you, 6% of the population, right, black men, 6% of the population account for 44% of all murders in this country, according to 2018 statistics. That is what you call a gap. And yet white people who represent 60% of the population, we represent 13, black men are 6%, only represent 50% of all the murders, right? That makes no sense. That makes no sense. A 6-point variation in a community where we are extreme minorities. We commit 50% of all violent offenses, evenly split, and we're only 13% of the population, okay? So we have a lot more encounters with police officers. And don't say the police officers are coming around because we're black. I'm talking about violent criminals. I'm talking about murder, 44% of murders, okay? You want to talk about real statistics? The police officers have way more to be fearful of in the black community than the other way around, okay? We commit, on average, a police officer is 18 and a half times more likely to be killed by a black person than the other way around, okay? So this entire narrative is complete smoke and mirrors.
What she said there still doesn't negate the fact that there is a war on the black community, and it needs to be dealt with full force.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, there's a war on the black community. We know that abortions and a fourth of black pregnancies in America every single year, that's a silent genocide that is being paraded as though it is a constitutional right.
Exactly.
We know that the government through welfare programs actively incentivizes predominantly African American women in America to have more children, and it punishes them for getting married.
That's right. Just one such program, you can look it up. This is bullet point fashion, is the AFDC, Aid to Families with Dependent Children, that it targets the African American community. It punishes primarily black women for getting married, saying, listen, have as many children as you want. We'll keep giving you more money. And the moment you get married, have a father and a father figure in the house with you, that money is cut off.
Yep.
There is government incentives that target the minority groups and cause them not to have a strong father figure in the home. You see, there are certain things, is what I'm saying, is that statistically, I'm doing stats here, facts here.
Yeah.
Statistically, you are not as likely to not have a father in the home if you're of the Caucasian race.
Yep.
And it's because of the government, people. It's not because for some reason, the African American women just don't want to get married. No, it's not. It's not a difference in morals. It's government incentives.
Yeah. And that's a point that I think, should be made. If we want to talk about white privilege, that's a word that gets thrown out a lot. If I'm to say that I have white privilege, I mean, two of the things on this list are, I think, the greatest privileges that I have just being born as, a Caucasian American. I statistically have a much lower chance of being aborted. I have a greater chance just of being born in this country if I'm white. And I have a greater chance of growing up in a household where I have a strong father figure.
Another one, Andrew, that you and I were talking about before that you brought up to me was that if you want to talk about white privilege, because the white privilege means certain things to certain people.
Right.
Because there are certain definitions that I'm like, no, I do not believe in that definition of white privilege whatsoever. But another area that you brought to me, because I didn't even really think about this one, that if you wanted to say that the white man is privileged, you can be a Republican white man or a Democrat white man, and no one is going to say that you're betraying your race by being either a Republican or a Democrat. The African American largely is not afforded that right in America.
Exactly. I mean, sadly, leaders in politics and in the black community, you'll even see in black churches, sadly, they'll scold and humiliate black Americans for holding views that don't toe the line, for holding conservative views, for holding Republican views. You'll see it on major media outlets like CNN. I mean, black anchors will unfortunately use horrible terms and call, black people who don't toe the line, they'll call them Uncle Toms. They'll even say that, you're not black, you're a traitor to the race.
You're a traitor because you're not a Democrat. But yet it is, see, I don't want to just make this a Democrat-Republican thing because it's so much more than that.
Right.
But the majority of laws that were creative that enslave the black community in 2020 were created by a political party. And I'm not saying that the conservatives have it all right by any means, okay? I am a conservative. I'm going to tell you that. I'm not going to deceive the people. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying the laws, because there is a war, Andrew, from abortion, from government incentives, from even you have to vote Democrat because you're black.
Yeah.
And you are dehumanized if you're anything but a Democrat. Like, there is a war.
Yeah. And I think the point is that, to the analogy that you started with, the house is on fire. There is a war against the black community. But if your focus is on police brutality, your focus is in the wrong place. And if our focus is in the wrong area, then we might as well be trying to hose down that fire with gasoline.
You're exactly right. You see, I am for the people. I am for black lives. But another point that needs to be made is I am not for the organization. You see, black lives do matter. Black America is under attack. But the organization, I need you to understand this, because this is where the manipulation comes in. The Black Lives Matter organization within itself, okay, at its core, they do not care for Black lives. The leaders of the Black Life Movement, they are anarchists, they are socialists, and they are communists bent on destroying the United States. You see, we're going to go through the history because they want you to believe that the Black Lives Matter, because no one can argue with Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black Lives Matter. But the organization at the core is evil, and they could care less about the black man and the black woman in America. Because here's the thing, don't let the media fool you. Nearly every single American can agree on a couple of things. We can all agree that placing your knee on someone's neck for 9 minutes as they can't breathe is evil.
Yeah.
We can also agree that things like rioting and looting and beating innocent people is evil. The vast majority of Americans can all agree. Okay? I want to play a few minutes of a video for you. This is really interesting. Angie Bellers and I shot this video in July of 2016 during the Ferguson riots. Now, as I was preparing this week, I went back and I looked at my notes from 2016, and then I went back and found the video from 2016. I literally feel like it could have been the exact same thing. The content that we said in 2016, I could have pulled that content, printed it out, and it would have sounded exactly like today. Yep. The only difference is every time we would say Ferguson in the video, you can't just put one city in it right now. It's 100 cities across America. I want you to take a listen to this and just to see how relevant it is today, because the things that are said in this video, because I thought about just talking about what was said there, but I thought, well, why don't I just play the video?
Yeah.
This is what's at the core of the Black Lives Matter movement. And then we're going to get even more into it when we come back. Take a listen. There's good info.
Jesus wants us to think clearly. Jesus wants us to think rationally, logically, to be able to discern, to be able to look beneath the surface at what's taking place. We've got to ask those hard questions and not be scared at what the truth leads us to. The first question is this: why in the world are people like billionaire evil socialist George Soros, why is someone like him funding the protest that we saw in Ferguson, and he hopes to spur civil action? Why is he funding things like the Black Lives Matter? I actually have the article here. It says George Soros funds Ferguson protests, hopes to spur civil action. This was from the Ferguson protests. It says, in all, Mr. Soros gave at least $33 million in 1 year to support already established groups that embolden the grassroots on the ground activists in Ferguson. You don't have to be a genius to do some simple research on George Soros and find out that he is a wicked, evil man. And you need to find out where his money is going to. There's often an agenda. Why in the world would he give $33 million to the Black Lives Matter movement in America, billionaire evil socialist George Soros in Europe? Why would he be giving $33 million? He does not have a dog in this fight. What is his motives? Why would he care about something like this? Why? I can tell you why. He has an agenda to set up a global organization. And now this might sound crazy, but I want to implore you to keep watching today's show.
Yeah, and he's not the only one with an agenda, and that's why we're seeing this in our country. And I think I want to urge you to open your eyes and just consider what we're sharing today, and just have an open mind about it. You know, don't just believe us. Look into it for yourself.
Yes.
But we do have to realize that there's a problem in this nation. It's not a new problem, it's an old problem, but it has been stirred up again.
And that it needs to be answered. Why is he? And I'm saying that we have the right in America to ask these questions. We might not have all of the answers, but we have the right as an American citizen to ask the tough questions,
Right.
to demand
Yes.
the answers. But our critical reasoning today, whenever I tell you, like someone like evil George Soros gave $33 million to the Black Lives Movement just last year, most people would be like, wow, that's a crazy thought, man. That dog is messed up. And that's basically where their critical reasoning would stop.
Yeah.
But what's the next why? What is his goal? I have another article here from WorldNet Daily. It says, the roots of Black Lives Matter unveiled. The Black Lives Matter movement, BLM, casts itself as a spontaneous uprising born of inner city frustration, but is, in fact, the latest and most dangerous face of a web of well-funded communist, socialist organizations. Why? Why do they want this? Why do they want to cause civil war? Why do they want to create more racism in America? Why are they trying to diminish America? Why are they trying to destroy nationalism? Why are they doing this?
Well, Zach, it's simple. They want chaos. They want to bring the chaos into the situation so they can provide an answer. So they can provide a one world government answer to say, oh, well, you can't figure it out for yourself. There's so much going on. We will provide you a savior. We'll provide you an answer. We'll straighten out your country. Just give us over the control and we'll take care of you. That is what comes down to. That's the bottom
Amen.
line.
I'm with you. And it says that they've been doing this for decades. It says its agitation has provoked police killings and other violence, lawlessness, and unrest in minority communities throughout the U.S. If allowed to continue, that agitation could devolve into anarchy and civil war. Civil war in America. I believe it was the New York Times newspaper this week. It came out and it said civil war in bold letters. And beneath it talked about what happened in Dallas. It says that this report that I have in my hand from WorldNet Daily, the article is called The Roots of Black Lives Matter Unveiled. I encourage you to do some research for yourself and go and read this 5-page article. It says that this report, it actually goes into detail. It examines in detail for the first time how communist groups have manipulated the cause of Black Lives Matter and how money from liberal foundations have made it all possible.
Now let's even go a little bit deeper. They want you to think that it is a grassroots thing. The Black Lives Matter movement is grassroots. It's totally not. It's well funded by communist socialist organizations to devolve into anarchy and civil war. Exploiting African Americans to promote Marxist revolution is an old tactic. So let's get into it. Who exactly, not just George Soros, he's one of the characters, but who's behind, a little more local, behind the Black Lives Matter movement? So BLM, Black Lives Matter, BLM launched in 2013 with a Twitter hashtag Black Lives Matter, after neighborhood watchman George Zimmerman was acquitted in the Trayvon Martin killing. Radical leftists Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tamidi claim credit for the slogan and hashtag. Okay, that's important. Following the Michael Brown shooting in August 2014, Dream Defenders, an organization led by Working Families Party, ACORN, activists, and Occupy Wall Street anarchist Nalini Stamp, popularized the phrase, "Hands up, don't shoot," which has since become BLM's widely recognized slogan. So those names mentioned at the beginning, Garza, Collins, and Tamidi, they all work for front groups of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. Wake up, people. Nalini Stamp's Acorn, now rebranded under a variety of different names, works with all 4 socialist organizations here in America, and Dream Defenders is backed by Service Employees International Union and the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and others. So, these people who all work for the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, FRSO. FRSO is a hereditary descendant of the new communist movement, which was inspired by Mao and the many communist revolutions throughout the world in the 1960s and the 1970s. The organization continues. FRSO is comprised of dozens of groups. The radical left model is based on alliances of many organizations that are working on separate issues but dedicated ultimately to the same thing: overthrowing our society in order to replace it with a hardcore socialist one. Black Lives Matter is one of many projects undertaken by the FRSO. So whenever you go to blacklivesmatters.com, it basically says this is not just an organization, but it is, because all the money is funneling from one place. It's one of the projects of FRSO. And remember, FRSO stands for Freedom Road Socialist Organization. And these are the people that literally are saying, we are the ones. The $33 million I was referring to in Ferguson that George Soros gave, it's funneled through these organizations.
Yeah, and they're not quiet about what their intentions are. It's not just to raise awareness about racism in America. If you go to Black Lives Matter, they have a website. If you go to the website, they just posted something on May 30th that they started a hashtag called Defund the Police, where their actual goal is to defund law enforcement all around the nation.
That's right.
That's their intention.
So not the peaceful protesters.
Right.
The organization Black Lives Matter, not the peaceful protesters. The organization what's their goal? Why do they want to create this? Why are they laying bricks in the road? They want to defund the police. Are you kidding me? Whenever you defund law and order, what's going to happen is chaos or anarchy, pumping civil war. A civil war. This is their goal. You see, listen, remember how we played the video in the beginning of Candace Owens? If you look at the facts, the focus should not be on police brutality, but there is a war. Mm-hmm. We should come against the war of the African American babies being aborted more than any other race, hands down, in America. We should come against these government incentives that enslave that community. We should come against the stereotypes that because of your race, you have to belong to a certain political party. Yeah. They're being manipulated and prodded against their own will, and it's like people don't understand. Wake up. Wake up.
And I would just encourage you, if you just stumbled across this video, if you support Black Lives Matter, if you catch yourself saying Black Lives Matter a lot, but you haven't actually done any research into the organization, I would just encourage you, don't align yourself with the group unless you've actually done some research to figure out what they're all about.
Because the emotions are very real. The portrayed injustice is very real, and the feelings are very real. But if these things were actually happening, I would be the first one to take this mic and come against it. But I just can't see it. But I don't disregard the emotion, because emotions can be very strong connected to this. But just open up your eyes to what's really happening. Listen, it's so much of it is set up. Why are white men breaking windows? White men. And the peaceful black protesters in many cities are trying to stop them, like here.
I ain't got part of that. Dude.
Guy just came with a hammer and smashed the windows.
I'm gonna fight you right now.
You wanna go? Yes, what's up? Somebody hold my blunt. Hey, somebody hold my blunt. I'm gonna give it up. Hey. Are you a f***ing cop? What's up?
Why are there pallets of bricks being shipped in and dropped off in dozens of cities across America, like here?
This right here?
Yeah, they put them there
This
on
the
purpose.
setup.
They put them there on purpose,
Y'all know
bro.
where we at.
They gonna set them hoes right up on the route.
Y'all know what building this is right here.
Bruh, they got them bricks, bro. We are protesting. Crazy. Some random bricks, bro. Ain't no construction.
was just one city, I would say it's a coincidence. But dozens? No. This is an organized effort. Why are white men dressed in all black with walkie-talkies the ones starting riots in some cities, like here? It's being staged to create anarchy because they want to destroy America. They want to destroy capitalism. And this, listen, go watch the other shows. This is all deals with prophecy. This all deals with the end times of them taking out strong America and ushering in a global order under socialism. Wake up. Black lives do matter. I'm going to wrap it up. I love my black brothers and sisters in Christ. Black lives do matter. But I become upset when I see a group of people being manipulated and taken advantage of. And I have to say something. You see, in Ephesians 5, it says this: have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. It is shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. There are lies being told in the dark, and we're here to expose them. We are called to love our neighbors. In Mark chapter 12, it says this: love the Lord your God with all of your heart, and with all of your soul, and with all of your mind, and with all of your strength. Love God first with everything you have is what it's saying. Then second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. It is love. Please hear me. It is love that I'm saying these things. It is love to say something. If someone is being taken advantage of and you don't say something because of political correctness, well, then that is not love.